The crew is asleep. You were able to arrange it?" The young engineer looked down at her, his thin face a pale blur in the darkness. "In 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, Nanlo, my own," he whispered. "I left the guard half an hour ago, drinking molkai into which I put a sleeping powder. Give 'em 5 more minutes to fall asleep, then we can go to the ship unseen, unchecked. Until then, we can wait here in the garden." He led her towards the trilling fountain, and they sat down upon a bench before it, of rare Callisto crystal. They still were in darkness, but the flame-like Jupiter light touched the tops of the neklo tree above them with a ruddy light which brought faint glimmerings from the radioactive leaves. Hugh Niels was a recent college graduate whom Negu had hired as an assistant supervisor in the refining mills on Callisto, where the precious uranium-235 was separated from the ordinary metals. It was not a desirable job, but the best Hugh Niels could get. His college record of reckless scrapes and entanglements with women had been against him. Indeed, his position had only come to him because his home was in the same section as Nanlo's, and Negu had thought that perhaps his company on occasion would help alleviate Nanlo's restlessness. It had, but to an extent Negu had not foreseen. "In less than a quarter of an hour, Nanlo, my darling," Hugh Niels whispered now, "we'll be gone from here, and you'll belong only to me. We'll leave this infernal barren satellite to spin itself dizzy out here in no place. We'll leave that Humpty Dumpty husband of yours and his hypocritical good nature to whistle for his wife and his ship. We won't care. We'll be together, always together from now on, and he'll never see us again." Nanlo leaned against his shoulder. The prospect that he painted seemed very sweet to her. "You're sure you can manage the ship alone?" she asked. "But of course, I can help a little anyway. You can teach me." "Of course," Hugh Niels answered confidently and bent to kiss her again. "I've been studying her for a week, asking questions, making friends with the crew. I can handle her one-handed. We'll take off and circle Jupiter first. They may think we landed on the other side, in the outlaw crevice, or they may figure that we went on to Saturn and will hide somewhere in the system there. But we won't do either, and they won't know where to look for us. Instead of turning back to the other side of Jupiter, we'll make a tangential angle out into space. We'll hold it for a month for safety's sake. We could hold it for 50 years, or 100 if we needed to. There's fuel and provisions meant for the mines, enough to last that long. At the end of the month, we'll swing back, cut into the path of the sun, and pick up Mars as she comes in from behind Sol. On Mars, we can sell the Vulcan. There's an outfit in the equator zone, in the mountains west of the Great Canal, that will buy her, and no questions asked. I learned about them from a fraternity brother when I was in college. He'd run into some hard luck, they gave him a job, and he was making money hand over fist. They're asteroid miners. The work they do is illegal, but it's perfectly justified morally. What right have men with more money than they know what to do with to own everything in the solar system? How can a young fellow get a start anymore, when corporations and rich old fogies own everything? Maybe I'll join up with this outfit. After we've sold the ship, I'll see. How does that sound to you?" "Wonderful, Hugh," Nanlo whispered. "But I don't care about all that. All I want is for us to be together, always, you and me, and our love together for eternity. That's all I want." "That's all I want too, darling Nanlo," Hugh Niels told her passionately and kissed her. "Together, forever, just you and me." Nanlo sighed with luxuriant happiness and peered at his radiumite wristwatch. "The 5 minutes are up," she murmured. "Can't we go now?" Hugh Niels nodded. "We've waited plenty long enough," he decided. "The guard will be asleep by now. The crew were that way when I left them in the dormitory. I saw that they had plenty of spiked molkai at dinner, pretended it was my birthday celebration, and the ship's all ready and waiting for the takeoff. All we have to do is lock the port and close the rising switch." The two on the bench by the fountain rose, and for a long minute were locked in an embrace. Then they turned towards the dark shadowed trees and disappeared beneath them in the direction of the nearby spaceport. Negu silently turned back into the house. Sliss shuffled after him. The uranium merchant led the way back to the vitrite-covered garden, and there, a little wearily, resumed his seat and picked up his mug again. Sliss climbed back into his tub of water, sighed gratefully at the comfort it gave him, and then turned his pop eyes towards his host. He blinked once, inquiringly, and Negu understood that the intelligent amphibian was asking if he intended to do nothing to stop the pair who were running away. Negu sipped pensively at his drink. "If only she had told me," he murmured. "If she had only come to me and said she desired her freedom. If they had only both come together and faced me, saying that though it meant giving up all they had, they wanted each other. I would have been generous. I would have been indulgent. But they did not. They had not the courage. They were afraid of me, and they hated me. Negu was silent for a moment. Both he and his guest stared towards the graceful shaft of the Vulcan, now fully silhouetted against the whole tremendous bulk of Jupiter, sitting like a titanic scarlet egg upon the horizon of Callisto. The Jupiter light flooded the Vitrite garden, gave the plants there, chosen with his eye to this, strange, exotic, glowing colors, flushed Negu and Sliss with a ruby radiance. Towards that dark waiting craft the two they had watched were even now stealing, tense with the weight of their daring and their crime. In a moment they would reach her, enter her, actuate machinery that was miraculous in its complex simplicity, and be gone then on the wings it gave them into the concealing embrace of universal space. "You see, my friend Sliss," Negu said finally, "Nanlo is beautiful, but there is nothing within. Her beauty deceived me. I thought that where such loveliness existed, there must be a soul to animate it. I was wrong. She is like an imitation gem, beautiful on the surface, paste within. Yet the mistake was mine. I did not blame her. I indulged her, and still hoped that something real would bloom within her." He drained the Mulcahy in his mug, one great gulp, then slumped back. "The young man, too. Hugh Niels, I thought he would be a companion for her, but he too is weak. Yet they say they love each other. They swear, we heard them, that they want only each other and their love for all time." Sliss blinked twice and Negu nodded. "Yes. If they carry out their plans as we heard them, that feeling will soon go. The sale of the Vulcan, even as stolen property, would give them many credits. After that, luxury, self-indulgence, and their natures are too weak to withstand the ravages of such things, so I have been troubled to know what to do. You see, my friend from Venus, though I would have let Nanlo go had she asked me, my own honor is at stake when she seeks to deal me an injury by slipping away in the night and stealing from me the Vulcan. She is doing evil and must be punished. The young man, too, indulgent as I am, I cannot let him dishonor me thus without paying any penalty." Sliss's eye membranes shut questioningly. "Yet," the uranium merchant went on, "I have a fondness for Nanlo. I will not prevent her from doing as she has chosen to do, for the intent would still be there, and knowing it as I do, all between us is over. I cannot aid her to fulfill her plans either, for that is to injure her and myself too. But there is another course. I have chosen that." He gestured with one plump hand towards the silhouetted ship. "I believe they have entered the Vulcan," he announced. I saw light in the entrance port opened then. The amphibian's great frog head nodded with agreement. "So," Negu continued, "I have decided to exercise what indulgence I can in the face of the injury they would do me. They shall have their chance." He fell silent again. Sliss leaned forward in his tub, both of them watching intently. A flare of greenish light had sprung up beneath the black pillar that was the Vulcan. For just an instant the freighter stood there, green radiance expanding around her. Then she leapt into the sky. With her leap she seemed to suck the radiance along. It became a great cone of glowing light that, arrow-like, raced away upwards. For a long instant the black length of the ship and the greenish fan of flame were outlined against the scarlet background of Jupiter. Then the freighter rocket, flinging itself upward at 3 gravities or better, passed the edge of the planet and vanished. Negu sat very quiet for some moments, but at last he stirred again. Sliss's eyes turned towards him, immobile. "Sometimes love transforms the weak," the uranium merchant said slowly. "Like fire giving temper to soft metal, sometimes a mutual love will endure for all eternity, and the two who share it will gain from it a soul they did not have before. Nanlo and Hugh Niels have this chance. Both said they wanted only the other, and their love for all eternity. To gain this, both were willing to cheat, to steal, to dishonor me and themselves. So, Sliss, my understanding friend, they have paid the price. They shall have what they ask for. As the man Hugh Niels said, there is food and fuel in the holds of the Vulcan to run the motors and last the lifetime of a man. Or a man and a woman. Indeed, 2 lifetimes, or 3, for I was aware of their plans and secretly placed aboard the craft many additional supplies. Fuel and food and books and tools, and one additional thing the two who flee now